Hello, hello. Thank you everybody for being here today, whether it's good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Today we're lucky enough to get to speak with Eric Kruger, the author of the first of the Benjamin Drake Adventure series, Hauler. And first and foremost, I know I say this a lot, but hats off to you in terms of the world that you've built, the environment you created, the drama, and just you created this thriller that took place in this sci-fi-esque world that felt very relatable to where we are today with the corporations and this and that. And although dark at times, just with the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Dark at times with the man, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the word, but with the
Are you talking about like the tone?
yeah, and just the reality of the world being run by five corporations.
Yep.
It
Mhm.
really it let you get lost in it, but it was a bit foreshadowy of kind of the environment that I personally kind of perceive where we're heading right now. And it was interesting to kind of see that be played out in a story that you can get lost in. But yeah, no, I absolutely adored it and I found it such a quick read. So hats off.
Yep. I'll take it as a compliment that it was a quick read, not that it's
Yeah.
a picture book or a basic book.
No,
But
no,
the
no,
idea
by
was
no
always,
means like that.
yeah, it was always the idea is always for escapism and fun.
Mhm.
If there's
Yeah.
if
And it
there's more
was,
themes to it, that's fine. But the whole idea is for my writing is entertainment first and foremost. Like
Well,
all the other things happen because when in life there's themes and things happen and we're aware of things, but the biggest thing is entertainment. That's it.
and I think it very much
absolutely.
came through because when I say quick read, it was more just the case if I couldn't put it down.
Yep.
So I think it was finished in two sittings, and there was one at one point. It was like 4 in the morning. I was like, I need to finish this tonight. I don't want to wait to see what happens. And that's it's always nice to have stories like that.
Yeah, and it's nice to know that it took me a year to write it, and it only takes you 2 days to finish it. Like that makes me feel very good.
And then for me, what kept me reading it's like the reason I tore through it so quickly, I think, was the pacing and
Yes.
the quick changes. Like you never really get more than like a couple of pages of a POV. Some of like
Yep.
Lily's chapters and stuff. There's always something happening, and it
Yep.
always kind of ends just on. It's like a classic writer's trick, isn't it? Like every little chapter and segment ends on just before something important happens, and then it's switch again and switch again. So the POVs and everything had me tearing through it pretty quick, and I also loved how you had the pursuer and the pursued as the two sides of the story.
Yes. That was so all those things were always decisions I made beforehand. And so I wanted to have
Mm-hmm.
short chapters because I hate long chapters. That's why I never read
Yeah,
fantasy. I can't read. It's got to be short and quick. And the idea was an action book. So you can't have an action book, I think, with like chapters that's like 40, 50 pages long. You get a bit lost in it
yeah.
somewhere. And also in
And
my own
then with
life, yeah, with
oh, you go.
kids and
Sorry.
stuff, like dropping them off and times that I have to read is sometimes very short. So I like to be
Mm-hmm.
able to just read a quick chapter, read a quick chapter. So it's more to to make myself happy to have short chapters, but I think it works because you sort of quickly tell something, then it's the other person's turn. You quickly tell their side. So yeah, there was reason to the madness, but it's almost more practical thing as well.
Yeah, totally. I was thinking as I read through it, I was like, this feels like we love to ask authors about their process. I love talking to people about how they come up with not just the worlds, because the worlds are fascinating. I really loved the interpretation of Mars on this, but also like the structure and how much of it was deliberate and pre-planned and how much was discovered as you went.
Yeah, and also a lot of
So, yeah.
one of the biggest books that convinced me to give it a go after writing short stories for years and years was the Stephen King book, and I know a lot of people quote it on writing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, oh, there we go. It's a bit dusty.
Good find.
There we go.
Yeah.
That one, and he goes on how he has to write X amount of words a day.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
moment I started taking it serious, I set myself that target as well, that I need to write X amount of words a day. And because there's this
Mhm.
certain target of amount of words I need to write, you sort of make your chapters fit into that because you need to
Yeah,
write
yeah.
that much. So you're sort of like, okay, I've got 2 days and this chapter needs to be done. So you've got to think the whole
Mhm.
time, I've got to get this done. And then it's the next chapter. So there's a bit of a, not a rush, but you got to get it done in a certain amount of time. You can't just talk and talk and talk like I do in real life.
Mhm.
When I write, you've got to get it done. Yeah.
So then, do
And
you
was it
keep on?
linear? Like, did you start at the? Sorry, Ryan.
No,
Did
no,
you
you're
start at the
good.
start and go right? I'm going to write chapter 1 today, chapter 2 tomorrow, chapter 3 the next day, or was it more like I need to write X amount today? I'm going to go with whatever I feel like writing just now, and kind of fit it in later, or was it like start to finish?
So I'm a pantser all the way. I cannot
Nice.
plot. I have an idea in my
Yes.
head. So before I start, I know this book is going to be about this, and then it
Mhm.
goes. So I had the idea that this book is going to be about a truck driver, um, and then it's going to get sucked into something. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
That's how it started, and then it just goes from day to day, writing as it happens. Because he does
Mhm.
something, and that's going to cause something to happen, and then you got to go like, but how's the other guy's going to react to this? So it's not that hard to
Yeah.
write.
It's the I seen was it the guys that done South Park, I think, talking
Yep.
about this when they write their scripts. It's
Oh
always you've
no.
got your events, your inciting incidents and everything. And in between those scenes, it's got to be therefore this now happens, or
Yep.
because of that, this now happens.
Yep.
It can't just be and then. So it's like a chain of kind of cause and effect that
Yes.
for a story like this as well, where it's like constantly kind of ratcheting up stakes, I think that worked perfectly.
When you're writing this, because obviously this has become a larger kind of universe and there's multiple stories. When you wrote Holler, was it intentional that there was going to be more built off of it, or was it meant as a one and done kind of situation? And as a pantser, how did you plan for that, or did it just kind of all work out?
So Hauler was a one and done. I wrote
Nice.
it. I was very happy with it. Sent it off, got it edited and all that stuff, and sent it out in the world, and it was doing pretty good. And then I started on a new story, different
Mhm.
world, completely different. And I got into about 5 or 6 chapters of that book, and then all the feedback for Hauler started coming in. And a lot of it was people just saying, "Oh, they can't wait for the next one." And I realized, oh, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing the next one. Like I left it on a cliffhanger. It's not really, but sort
Mhm.
of.
Yeah.
If I ever wanted to go back to it, but the idea is, if I ever wanted to go back, not I am going back. And then also from a practical point of view, after Hall, I did it a little bit silly, but after Hall, I started learning about book marketing. Not before I
Oh
started
yeah.
writing. Like,
Bane
oh,
of my
all right,
life.
I've actually got to sell it now. Writing was the fun part, and now I've got to figure out how do I
Mhm.
actually sell it and get it to people, which is a
Yeah.
continuous struggle. I don't think that'll ever end.
It's
Uh,
honestly, as someone who isn't a writer myself, I've learned this. I've experienced this through YPQ of reading the books is the fun bit, and then you get to deal with the logistics and this and that and the marketing, and it seems that the creative
Yeah.
outlet is the fun stuff, and then once you actually get down into it, you still have to kind of go through the grime, as it were.
yeah, and I wouldn't say that the creative mind and the business mind is always in the same person. So it's a bit hard
Yeah.
to now think like, oh, I've got to get money. Because I'm still like, I'll just give my book away. Like if somebody's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you're right," I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yes, the copy. I'll sign it, whatever. Just take my book." But that's
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
how you
Just
make
please
a
read
lot of money.
it.
But I
I just
think
want people to read it.
I think
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? Well, when it comes to series, like Steve, you can attest to this because your stories,
Mhm.
your original Interloper trilogy has three stories where you can essentially
Mhm.
give the first one away for free and then have the writing speak for itself and hope that people buy on to the second and the third, and then
Yeah.
if you have longer series, so forth and so forth. But it is also the flip side of, it's always exciting when someone reads your book. Like I would want to
Yeah.
give it away for free constantly as well.
But that strategy you said now, that's one of the reasons then when I started looking at marketing a book, almost all the David Gogren and Mark Dawson, all the
Mhm.
big names in self-publishing said you need
Yeah.
to write a series. I went, oh, I didn't know
Mhm.
that. I should have known that
Good
first.
thing I left
Okay.
it on a cliffhanger,
Oh, I
you
said, yes. And so I went back and I went, oh, is there anything I can say anymore? Or, can I just, because I didn't want to change the new story I was working on because that's a separate thing. Um, and it just suddenly became apparent, like, well, they can still do something. Like they're in this world now. People know the characters,
Mhm.
and the feedback is pretty good on the characters. So I can keep all of them, including like the Lieutenant Wales. Like I don't need to get rid of anyone. So yeah, the story just went on, and I'm
Speaking
up to
speaking
book
of
five now.
characters, I have a dumb question. What is Jimmy's last name before I absolutely lose it?
I've
I
got
don't know.
Jimmy questions as well, man. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to give anything away by saying what it is, but there's no last name.
It's no last name.
No,
Ah, it's
it's just
always gonna
so
be.
it's such a difficult last name. It's so out there that it doesn't actually exist. Like, yeah, I haven't actually made up a word or a. I might in the future, like in one of the books, it might come out, but for right now, it's just something.
Brilliant.
Yeah, when are we getting a Jimmy something spin-off? Like just his own story about him like trying to walk down the street without getting shot or something.
I was thinking of doing that, like you said, with the whole people give a book away for free with marketing and stuff. I was thinking
Yeah.
of doing a little novella about
Mhm.
Jimmy something
Oh
growing
yeah,
up
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Like his life before Drake, or maybe just like an incident just before they met, not his whole backstory, but I think there's a lot there. So,
Yeah, you
and
get little hints of
unfortunately,
it throughout,
yeah.
I
So,
think what
he has become out of the four books, number five is in the works, but out of the four books
Nice.
so far, he's the favorite. Everyone loves him. Everybody wants to talk about Jimmy to the point that number
Yeah, he was
four,
yeah.
yeah, I made number four all about Drake because I got a bit shitty. Oh, sorry, I got a bit cranky that everyone wants to talk about the side characters and not the main character.
Yep.
That I made a decision in the number four. It's called Alone because it's
Mhm.
just Drake. I need to get rid of everyone.
Right.
Focus on Drake for a little
there,
while.
there there is an element with like he's the lovable fool. He's
Yes.
the like you're rooting for him, even though
Yes.
you know that he's a con man, you know he's an idiot, you know he's just scraping by.
Yep.
I I don't know. Steve, did you find redeemable factors in Jimmy something?
Yeah, I love Jimmy. It was pitiable, was what I'd written in my notes. So I was like, God, you really pity him. But then there's
Yep.
also that element of like, how much is he playing on that, and is he aware of it, and he hates being pitied by people, like. So you kind of want him to do something, but then obviously, like, no spoil. We can get into spoilers now, I guess. But obviously, Jimmy plays a pivotal role. But I think why I love Jimmy so much was because Benjamin Drake's like your everyman kind of hero. He's a great character, that kind of like blue collar worker caught up in the corporate hellscape.
That's exactly. Yep. Yep.
But Jimmy is like a foil to him, and it would have been a much less interesting side of the story if it was just Benjamin on his own,
Yes.
driving miles and miles and miles across Mars without someone to kind of bounce off.
Yep.
And of course, obviously later on you have Lily and stuff joining up. But yeah, I thought Jimmy was like an enabler almost. Kind of
That's an
enabled the
interesting
story to
word.
go.
Yeah, enabler. I like that.
Yeah.
Making Drake a bit naughtier than he would be. Yep.
I
I
did
think
have my question about Jimmy was because I've done this before with characters. I've written like a placeholder name for them,
Yep.
and then later on I've just went, you know what? I'm kind of used to the placeholder name now. I'm
Yeah,
just going to
that
stick with
happens.
that.
Yep.
Was that what it was?
No, not there, but that's happened with like book titles and stuff as well. Like you just put something there
Yeah.
quickly, and then you go, "Oh, yeah, I've been calling that for a while now." No, but Jimmy something was
Mhm.
always, it just popped to my head. It was Jimmy, and I was like, "Oh, what is Sinner? What is Sinner? It's got to be something." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, something." So that's all it was. It was just that quick. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, because nobody can pronounce it." Because there had to be a little thing to show that he's, strange or, yep.
I think my
Yeah. It's like a gangster movie or something, where you've got everyone's got like weird nicknames,
Yep.
but my thing
like
with
Hatchet
Jimmy,
John or something like.
my thing with Jimmy was that you ever see a friend do something where you know it's a bad idea, but you kind of want to see what happens? I feel like with Jimmy, it was very
I
much
have
like
them. Yep.
a big stop sign,
Yeah.
but the stop sign is green.
Yeah.
And I just want to know what goes on.
He's the canary in the mine shaft, isn't he? If he
Yeah.
survived, we can all go in. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. But yeah, so I think the dynamic between the two was fantastic. And then the like Steve was mentioning at the beginning of this, the switching between the POVs, it was all intriguing. It was cool to see how it all kind of connected. And I think the
Yep.
the biggest difficulty with having multiple POVs is sometimes like the reader, like I'll definitely pick a favorite and I'll be like, oh, I don't really want to read this section. I want to just get back to
Okay.
give
Yep.
me
Yep. Yep.
something. So
Yep.
it was nice where I didn't feel that in any capacity. Like I felt like every jump was actually pushing me further along the story rather than delaying here or stalling there, you know?
Yeah, I felt like everyone, even like Jacob McKenna and all the other people that's involved, you needed to know
Mhm.
what was going on with them as well to make them interesting. If
Mhm.
not, they
Yeah.
would have just been NPCs. They would have just been in the
Yeah.
background. That you wouldn't have cared what happened there. So I thought it was important to have multiple. I know a lot of people don't like multiple point of views,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
again, I only found that out after I wrote the book, so it doesn't matter.
I think that's the beauty of self-publishing. That's the beauty of indie is that you're not following what the norms or what the publishers want you to do. You're just writing the story you want to write.
And like in the beginning, I didn't even know if I could write a full book. Like I've written so many short stories, and I just thought, oh, I'm gonna give it a crack. But to go from a 2000, the longest one I ever wrote was, and I won a little prize for a horror story, and I think it was 8,000 words, and that was a stretch because before that was all like 3,000 words, and I wrote the 8,000 one, and it won for that little anthology, and I went like, oh, that's pretty good. I wonder how long is a book, and I looked it up, and it's like 90, 100,000. I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you do that? How do you go?
You got to do that 10
How do you
times,
make it
11
that
times,
much
12
more
times.
and more?
Yeah.
But it wasn't that hard. I really enjoyed it. Like it just happened. Like I said, once because I'm a pantser, I think it helps as well. It makes it exciting because you don't know what's going to happen. You have an idea, but you don't know
Mhm.
what's going to like Jimmy and Drake. I never made for them to be friends. Like
Yeah.
it happened in the book. Like you write as you're writing and you go like, oh, this is what's going to happen because they both talk and people always say the characters live their own lives, but it
Yeah.
feels like sometimes it feels like you're just typing away and things are happening. And the next time when you go like, oh, all right, well, I guess we're going down this road now.
I think I had a thing recently with the book that I'm writing just now. I got about three-quarters of the way into it, and characters that were not meant to be kissing were kissing. And I was like, "Whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing that for?" Like,
Yeah,
there's obviously something going on there where the characters start to take control a bit. But I kind of love when that happens. I think that's when you know that the characters have got that kind of depth and life to them
yep.
that's so hard to create. It often just comes out accidentally, and usually from like interaction between other characters and conflicts and stuff.
Yeah,
It's
I
where you
think with
find
the
out who they
story,
really
yeah, if
are.
this happening, if enough things are happening, it allows them to do more things. Like if they were just sitting next to each other in the truck driving somewhere for 300 pages, nothing would have happened.
But
Yeah, and
even
speaking of being in, okay, go
even
on.
those scenes where they're just in the car driving, I found those really engaging. I found those really interesting, like
Mhm.
trying to visualize. Like he doesn't actually need to be in the car. It's all automated, so you're just kind of
But he
bored,
wants
but
to.
you want to pay attention and you don't at the same time. Like it felt to an extent relatable. Like I don't know how often you two drive, but like, we've all been driving and then you kind of go on autopilot and then you click back when
Yeah.
you're at your destination, like, oh wow, that was kind of dangerous. It kind of felt like that kind of extent where you're locked in, but at the same time you're not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I found it real intriguing. It was a cool little thing for me
And
to
I
be.
think the whole where he still want to be in charge of all these automated things is a little bit me, and I think a lot of writers with the whole AI thing,
Mhm.
like it's
Yeah,
happening.
yeah.
We are losing control in some areas, but we want to hold on to it. And I think that's a little bit. That's what I mean. Like I don't put themes in the book, but I guess it sort of pops up subconsciously. Like there's stuff that that interests me or that's happening in my life, and it does pop up in the book. But
Mhm.
it's
And
not an intellectual book. I will never call it a
and because it's set like you call it what, like 10 minutes in the future, like it's not
Yep.
hugely futuristic, it's like just around the corner kind of thing. it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's imaginable, but you've carried over a bunch of the stuff that like little frustrations from our modern lives. What was it like, the you go into a new town and the terms of service pop up and stuff, you got to like accept things and
Yeah.
Yep.
little touches like that.
Yep.
So I love talking to sci-fi authors about how they make the worlds and stuff that they're in. And obviously we're dealing with Mars. So was there a lot of research and stuff that went into it?
Uh, what's the right answer? Yes.
Oh, the honest answer. Because sometimes I'll
No.
be writing something sci-fi
Okay.
and I'm
So
like, I need to just come up with a technology that allows this story beat to happen. So I'm just going to make
yes.
something
So
up.
a little bit sci-fi gives you a little bit of that freedom where you can make stuff up. You're just gonna make it
Yeah.
up believably. Um, like the DDUs that they have in their arms so they can read all their stuff, which is
Oh,
basically our
yeah, yeah.
phones just in their arms now. Oh no, sorry, that's the HIC. The DDUs is
Yeah, human
the
interface console,
HIC.
right?
Sorry,
Yeah.
my bad. I got my own technology wrong. Yeah, so you can make stuff up without worrying too much sometimes. Like, I don't really
Yeah.
know how that would work, but it looks like something that will happen. Then,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And
making all the
it's like
vehicles
vague enough.
hydrogen. Yes, I understand roughly how hydrogen battery cars work, but
Uh-huh.
I don't think I need to know 100% how it works. It's just like, it feels like, oh, that's a technology that will work. Same with the
Yeah.
pulse rifle. Like, it sort of feels like it will work, so I'm making it work. With Mars, I did research all that, like how much it would take to get there, what is flight
Mm,
time,
yeah.
how long will it take to get there currently with what we have now. So you sort of then go, okay, realistically, how can we make it a bit quicker and that sort of thing.
Oh, I
Plutonium
didn't
and
ask.
bismuth, all
Do
those materials as well. They are all actual
Yeah,
materials
bismuth
that
and
will get
stuff.
the job done.
Hmm.
do you have any experience as a long haul truck driver?
I got a four-wheel drive.
Okay.
No, no, that doesn't count.
Close enough.
No, I don't. And the funny thing is, when the book started, it was going to be a truck driver in now. It wasn't a sci-fi book at
Yeah.
all. But
Mm.
I
That's
thought
really
very
cool.
quickly that I just thought that was boring. Like it was just there's so many action books now anyway, like Jack Reacher,
Mhm.
all the Jack Carr stuff, Orphan X. There's a lot of current action books
Mhm.
happening. And I went just another guy on the road. It's not really exciting. There needs to be a certain something else has to happen. And that's where I went. Oh, let's just put it a little bit in the future.
Mhm.
That's interesting. One of the things that
That's
I've
my way of
noted
saying I
when I
have no
was
idea
reading
anything about trucks.
one of the notes that I made when I was reading was that I love the sci-fi thing. I'm a big sci-fi fan anyway. But like you could quite easily take Drake and Lily and everyone and Jimmy and put them in like the 1800s and it's a sailboat and he's trying to get like I don't know gold to out of America back to Britain or something and it
Yeah,
would still
sounds like
be
me.
like
Somebody's writing a fan fiction there.
yeah, yeah. Benjamin's time traveling now.
Yes.
But it's like it's a classic story structure, like smuggler trying to get things through, guys having to smuggle things in or whatever, and someone's chasing them. But and the setting itself, then I thought really stood out as its own thing, like almost its own character. I love the version of Mars just ruled by like corporate hellscape. I mean, like what we're in a world right now with like five humongous companies control most stuff. Like,
And I think it's stuff like that. You see something like you'll see an infogram, and it'll show you how what is it like Nestle and all those companies
Yeah, it's the
own almost
oh yeah,
everything. It's like, hang
the
on, it's already
illusion of
happening.
choice.
Yes.
yeah,
Um, and even the company names that I have, if you look at if you decipher them, you'll see they all relate to something that's already happening now. But yeah, it's already sort of happening. So it's just taking everything that's happening now, like say, even with the technology in the arms, and just going, what's the next step? Not the next
yeah.
20, because it's set in the near future. So you
Mhm.
don't have to think too far. It's just what will the next step be?
And then,
What
like,
was the? When you go around,
I was just gonna say, like, that I think that's what made it so easy for me to visualize, and that's what made it so much more engaging was that I didn't have to sit there and kind of world build 8,000
Yes.
different things in my head. I could just, it was just a hop and a skip ahead. The thing that always caught me though was the food and how they did the food and
oh
how
yeah,
food was now this like it was all for
was it the
what
ready meals and stuff for
yeah,
like?
it's all to sustain yourself. I don't think there's any mention of actually cooking in the story, and it was really interesting, except for like the flashback where they go on the meal.
Yes. Yep.
Um,
I
which
think it's a
that was a
little bit
trip in itself.
implied because of the big war that happened for the corporations to take over.
Mhm.
There's not much left there's not a lot of land left.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Sort of a case that they can't really have normal food because it doesn't exist anymore.
just
Haven't got
crazy.
space
So
to
the
grow it and stuff.
corporations took
Yeah.
it over quickly and went like, oh, we can make money out of it because we'll just take over the food production as well.
So I wanted to ask, because I'm conscious of the time ticking, I picked up little bits of DNA from things like Firefly. There's a little bit of kind of like cyberpunk and stuff in there.
Yep, love that
What would
game.
you say were the kind of like main inspirations, and what's your favorite sci-fi universes? Like, what kind of stuff do you like to consume?
So I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and I make a conscious decision not to read too much sci-fi because I'm scared it'll influence my writing. And I know it's a silly thing
Yeah.
to say because at the same time, I almost exclusively watch sci-fi. A lot of the things I'm watching is sci-fi. I don't think there's a sci-fi show I haven't seen. Um,
Nice.
but growing up, my favorite movie still is Alien, and I like
Oh
the
yeah, space
tactile.
truckers.
Yes, and I like the tactileness of everything. So it's not flashy sci-fi, it's gritty. Like it's almost like Blade Runner.
Yeah,
It's not fancy, smooth. That's why I don't want to go too far in the future. It's got to feel like your tactile is the right word. You got to feel it, like the monitors and everything. It's there, it's right now. You can touch it. It's not all holograms and smooth and slick and yeah. So I think
I
that's
heard
one of
that called. I heard
yeah,
that called analog sci-fi, where it's like, yeah, we're in a spaceship, but we're running it on cassettes. Like,
yes,
and
yes,
I love stuff like that, like floppy disks on a spaceship. Brilliant,
yes.
beautiful.
Yes. And Running Man and what was the other Schwarzenegger? A lot of Schwarzenegger when I was growing up. So what's the one with Mars? Um,
Oh, Total Recall.
Total Recall. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Stuff like that. But
Yeah,
it's all animatronics, and so I think in my head when I envision sci-fi, it's still that stuff. The tactile, bad animatronics. Yeah, that's what I like.
that's really cool. If you could have any of the technology that's in your book personally for personal use yourself right now, what would you go for?
Something that's in book four. No, I'm joking. I just
Oh,
don't think you can buy the other book.
That's good. Now
Um,
we got to read the next three.
that's why I want to say that. I don't know. I should have thought about that question. I don't want to say the phone that's built into your arm because I'm trying to be
yeah.
not on my phone anymore. So it's like I think that's the thing most people would say is having the thing in their arm, but that's
But
not
if
the one
you
I want.
my follow-up to that is if you had your phone in your arm, would you be on it more or less? Because you would never not have access to it, unless I guess,
Yeah.
something really bad happened and you lost your arm.
Yeah, and it's connected to the thing they are in their retina as well, so they can see
Yeah.
the screen in front of them. So yeah, I guess
Terrifying.
if you have it all the time, you'll just be used to it.
Hmm.
I'm
That's
trying
pretty
not to
cool.
answer your question because I can't think of anything that I would like.
But funny enough, I think I'd have the same answer. I thought it was one of those like ergonomically, my phone's already in my hand. Yeah, just
Yes,
like put the display there. That's perfect. It felt like one
yes.
of those really natural things. Another thing, so I always like to ask authors if certain things were deliberate. The first time that I read, it's the make of car. I think it's Nikola Tech,
Yep.
and I was like, oh, Tesla. Was that deliberate?
100%. Yep.
Yeah,
Nice.
good.
Even the big companies, that's why I say if you look at them, the one is the other big company is Nestum, which
Oh
is
yeah,
basically
like Nestle.
like no, I shouldn't say these things. I can get in trouble. Uh, I think
They're
the
always listening.
yeah the maker of the technology stuff is Citro, if I remember
Oh
correctly, which
yeah,
is
yeah.
citrus, which is another fruit. Because there's
Hmm.
another
Oh
fruit
yeah, yeah.
company that makes
Citrus. I was like, oh,
yeah
Apple,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
So they're all sort of a little bit of a play on what we have now. Yep.
Oh man, it's
You see, the more you talk to me, the more you're going to realize I'm not that clever. Everything is pretty easy to to decipher.
huh. It's and I think that's I've been preaching this the whole time, but that's the relatability factor of it. Did we just lose Steve? Incredible.
I saw him stand up and then he went away. Might have had enough. I get it. It happens.
Poor guy is moving house at the moment, so he's been having Wi-Fi issues. But all right, and I've been hitting on this point, but I think because it's the near future and because you're harping on corporations and because it's his laptop just died. That'll get you. Um, and because it's harping on this and that, it's just yeah, like it's hard to read the story and not think about what's actually going on around us today and how we can, if there's anything we can even do about it, or how do we just make the most of it? 'Cause the majority of us are just trying to get by.
And I think in number four alone, I tried to bring in a bit of a theme, not on purpose, but also about because they go to a completely different area that we haven't been before.
Mhm,
Um, and there they also have a bit of the whole how other countries interfere in other countries' matters sometimes.
mhm.
The whole world police sort of thing as well, which is now happening again with like Ukraine and all that stuff. Our countries fight for their own independence. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't try and get into heavy themes at all. But I mean, there's things that happen in the world, and I think they just sort of reflect in the books as well.
Well, I think again, like the book is always going to be a reflection of yourself to an extent because you're the one writing it and you're going to put the things that affect you and your real world experiences into it. So whether they play a big role or a small is up to you. But at the same time, it'd be a pity if they didn't play any role though. You know what I mean?
And that's where the whole character comes from. It's from my love of, like I said, growing up watching so many action movies, Indiana Jones, all those things. My favorite um, PlayStation game, I think we've talked about it on another talk, is the Uncharted franchise,
Oh,
which is
I love
basically
it. Love it.
which is basically Indiana Jones as well.
Mhm.
Um, and his last name is Drake as well.
Nathan
Funny.
Drake, exactly.
My son's name is Benjamin.
Mhm.
So there's the there's the name.
Well, and like you've created your own world. You've put your son into this. Like
Yep.
it's that hallmark. It's that story that will forever live on, irregardless of how many people end up reading it. Like that is forever gonna be yours. And I
Uh,
think that's a really, really cool legacy to get to leave.
yep. But it's just I wrote it for myself. Obviously, that's how it started. That's why I had to do all the marketing stuff afterwards because for me it was just I want to see if I could write a book
Mhm.
with my interests of love of adventure and action and putting names of people that I like. Almost all my friends are mentioned in the book. Not always in a good way, but all their names made it into the book. My daughter's name is Lily, so there's Lily Wells. Like
Mhm.
everyone's name is connected in the book somewhere because it was just my book. It was always just going to be for me. And then yeah, turned out to be a few people like it. So
No, I mean I think it's done really it seems to have done really well. The fact that are you on book 4 now or 5? I apologize.
four is out. I'm busy with five. And number
Amazing.
one, and I just made one into an audio book as well.
Yes, I actually will send you. This is probably not a good conversation for right now, but I'm gonna send you a email later. I would love to have a follow-up conversation about the audiobook process.
Yep,
But there's 2.5 minutes left, and I want to make sure
that's
that
right.
everyone that reads Holler, what should they read next? What's the best way they can get a hold of you? Best way they can communicate? Because I can put all this into the YouTube kind of description and everything as
Yep.
well.
I've got a website that's just
Mhm.
erickrugerauthor.com.
Mhm.
.au, I think, sorry. And then I'm on Facebook as Eric Kruger author as well, Instagram, Eric Kruger author. Um,
Mhm.
the books are all on Amazon. Um,
What
yeah, just
what
like the
would
normal places.
what's the next book in this series? What should they read next?
So the next one is Bounty.
Mhm.
Um, they go chasing a bounty, not going to say whose, but they end up chasing a bounty, which is, I thought, an interesting one.
Mhm.
Again, with twists and backstabs and the one after that is Trapped, which follows on directly from Bounty. They all follow on pretty much. Once I decided it's a series, um, then they sort of set a few months after each other. And
Okay,
then,
so this is
yeah,
really
so sort
fast
of,
paced all around.
yeah. So they happen sort of a little bit after each other. They like, especially Trapped, pretty much happens when Bounty finishes.
I
Yeah.
really like that. I think that's how Steve's stories were as well. Is that one ends and then you're right off to the next one. Because on one hand, it also gets the reader really engaged and really locked in. But on the other hand, excuse me, there's something to be said about the story taking place over the span of a year or over the span of a week. Um,
But I've
but
had some reviews where people mention they love the fact that you can still read them as a standalone. I
Yes.
try not to. You haven't read like the next one, so Horler doesn't have to do that. But I try to just quickly mention or try and throw back enough information that people can just read that one without having to read the previous one or without having to go back and read it again.
I completely agree. I
Yeah,
hate
so when
cutting
you
you
read
off
it, you can
there.
go like, "Oh, I remember this now. Yep, that's right." Or if you haven't read it, you can go
Mm.
like, "Oh, well, I guess this happened to him."
I hate cutting you off there, but we've got about 10
All
seconds
right,
left, and I don't
you're
want it
fine.
to cut us off. But thank you so much.
Oh, this was great. I loved it.
If you've made it this far, the story was Holler by Eric Kruger. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks
Will
again
do.
for joining us, guys.
Thank you so much, guys.